In these analysis videos, I take a look at a film in terms of its structure, character arcs, and themes. Today, we're looking at Trainspotting. Make sure you've seen the film, spoilers ahead. And also quite a lot of swearing. You have been warned. Trainspotting was directed by Danny Boyle and was based on a novel by Irvine Welsh. Now, I've not read the book, but it was a very influential book at its time, very Scottish, and the film also is very Scottish. So if you struggle with the accent, you're not alone. Now, because it's based on a novel, the film does not necessarily have a 3-act structure. Many books don't. The film opens with that chase sequence set to Iggy Pop's Lust for Life.
Choose life.
Which actually is a scene that comes around the midpoint of the film, that chase.
Choose a job. Choose a career. Choose a family.
But that is our introduction to the central character of Renton and the rest of his mates.
Choose a fucking big television. Choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players and electrical tin openers.
And to the world and essentially to the theme of this film.
Choose good health, low cholesterol and dental insurance.
Which is choose life.
Choose leisure wear and matching luggage. Choose a 3-piece suite on hire purchase and a range of fucking fabrics.
Renton clearly says what he believes choosing life means.
Choose your future. Choose life.
And then at the end of that speech tells us
I chose not to choose life. I chose something else.
He chooses heroin.
And the reasons? There are no reasons. Who needs reasons when you've got heroin?
But he also chooses after this initial opening sequence to get off the heroin.
Never again, Swanee. I'm off the Skyke.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No more. I'm finished with that shite.
And he shows us his process for doing that.
For this you will need 1 room which you will not leave, soothing music, tomato soup, 10 tins of.
We see that he's done this many times before and he has a process. But he needs one last hit.
What the fuck are these?
And this leads us into the next sequence, which is the whole suppositories and the toilet scene. Which also then shows us the desperation of this drug addiction and the humour of it. Now, Renton is an empathetic character. He's a likeable character. He's our central character, after all, a protagonist. But we're not meant to necessarily agree with his lifestyle. But he does say early on in the film,
what they forget is the pleasure of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
So right up front, the author and the director, Danny Boyle, are presenting us with the heroin lifestyle as something that people actually do choose initially, which is honest.
After all, we're not fucking stupid. Or at least we're not that fucking stupid.
What seems like a first act turning point in this film is when he meets Diane, played by Kelly MacDonald. In her first film, actually.
Where are you going, Diane?
I'm going home.
Well, I'll come back with you if you like, but, I'm not promising anything, you know?
It's the beginning of a relationship. It's a very weird relationship when he realises she's a schoolgirl. But nevertheless, it's the beginning of a romantic relationship for him. But while she does come back a few key times in the story...
Are you clean?
Yes.
Is that a promise then?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
This relationship doesn't become central to the story. The central relationship actually is with drugs. In fact, there's two. There's two central relationships, I should say, for Renton in particular. One is with drugs, with heroin, and the other is with his mates, his group of friends.
Doesn't it make you proud to be Scottish?
It's shite being Scottish!
Despite the various flaws that these friends have, they are his mates and he sticks with them. The key choice that Renton's presented with here is very similar to the one that was in Shawshank Redemption, which we looked at recently. Get busy living or get busy dying. Here it's presented as choose life. But one could argue if one does not choose the life that Renton presents at the beginning, which is a very consumeristic approach to life, one effectively, if you choose heroin, you're choosing death. And if you choose the kind of mates that he has here, in particular Begbie...
Who the fuck are you? Yes! Ah! The beggar's fucking psycho, man. But he's a mate, you know, so what can you do?
This is potentially death or incarceration.
Should you stand guilty before me again, I shall not hesitate to impose a custodial sentence.
Thank you, Your Honour.
So these are the things that I think the film is trying to teach him to overcome, that he does not need. To choose life means to give up these things. They're the sacrifice he must make if he actually wants to choose a normal life. depending on what your version of normal is. And there's a nice irony at the end of this film where he basically does say he chooses these things.
I'm cleaning up and I'm moving on, going straight and choosing life. I'm going to be just like you. The job, the family, the fucking big television, the washing machine, the car, the compact disc and an electrical tin opener.
But again, it's a very consumeristic approach to life. It's a very capitalistic approach. So is that a good life? But nevertheless, in the world of this film, that's a better version of life. At least you get to live with this one.
Good health, low cholesterol, dental insurance, mortgage, starter home, leisure wear.
Our midpoint for this film effectively becomes with the death of the baby.
Everyone's gonna be just fine.
Nothing could have been further from the truth.
Which is a consequence of heroin.
In point of fact, nothing was going to be just fine. On the contrary, everything was going to be bad.
And that's a big life lesson for him and his mates.
Bad? I mean, everything was going to be even worse than it already was.
And shortly thereafter, when Spud gets arrested.
Mr. Murphy, you are a habitual thief, devoid of regret and remorse.
So this effectively becomes the midpoint for our A and B plot. The A plot being getting off heroin, the B plot being the relationship with his mates more than anything else. Both of which he needs to change. The second act turning point, again, to the extent that we have one, is when Renton nearly overdoses. And it's beautifully presented, beautifully directed, in fact, with that sinking into the carpet and him just living in that hole. But even then, it's not shown as a disaster. It's not shown as an all is lost moment, because we're in Renton's point of view. And from his point of view, he's loving it. Until they pull him out of it. Has gotten off the drugs finally, thanks to the help of his parents.
Maybe I should go back to the clinic.
No. No clinics. No methadone.
And now we have the whole withdrawal sequence. We see it properly for the first time. And he's chosen life. Right? The conventional version of life. He's got a job.
Oh yes, it's a beautifully converted Victorian townhouse.
He's got an apartment.
I'm glad you found a job and somewhere to live.
He's left his mates behind. He's left the drugs behind, seemingly. And now comes his final test, where Begbie turns up at his door, and then Sick Boy,
You gonna eat that?
and gets him involved in a scam.
Oh, we've just come back from Tommy's funeral and you're talking about a skag deal.
Aye.
But they need to test it first, so this becomes a test both with his mates, Begbie in particular, and with the heroin, one last hit.
But let's be clear about this. There's final hits and final hits. What kind was this to be?
He overcomes this test, ultimately, in the scene at the pub, when Begbie again loses his mind and starts attacking people. And Renton, in a brief moment with Spud, suggests that they take the money.
Are you game for it?
Spud won't be in that. He's too afraid of Begbie. But when they're all asleep, this is what Renton does.
Now, I've justified this to myself in all sorts of ways. It wasn't a big deal, just a minor betrayal.
So Renton hasn't just left his mates behind and presumably the addiction, he's ripped them off. Although he does give some money to Spud, after all. And he's chosen this new life, and he's chosen a very capitalistic, consumeristic life.
The job, the family, the fucking big television.
And how do you start a new consumeristic, capitalistic life? You need money, don't you? There it is.
Good health, low cholesterol, dental insurance.
That's the irony of this ending, after all. But in this world, that is the better life. That is the better choice.
Mortgage, starter home, leisure wear, luggage, three-piece suite, DIY.
Is he a better person as a result? Well, he's off the drugs. That's a good thing. He's left behind these mates, one of whom in particular he should have given up on long ago, Begbie. But that's the sacrifice he's had to make to move on with his life.
Index pension, tax exemption, clearing the gutters, getting by, looking ahead, the day you die.
So structurally, Trainspotting relies very much on the character. There are films that are like this. There are plot-driven films and character-driven films. This is much more a character-driven film. And while there are a few plot elements, the choices the character makes don't rely on outside influences, outside problems that Renton has to solve. The outside problems that he's dealing with are primarily relationship issues with Begbie and his parents and Diane as a schoolgirl.
You're not going to jail.
Oh, well, that's very easy for you to say, Diane.
Can I see you again?
Certainly not.
The other key thing with Trainspotting is, of course, it's very Scottish. And you need to understand a little bit about Scottish culture. At the very least, you need to understand that Sean Connery, who was the original James Bond, was Scottish and is therefore a hero to Sick Boy.
I'd say in those days he was a muscular actor. With all the presence of someone like Cooper or Lancaster, but combined with a sly wit.
And there's this whole cultural background. And in particular, this speaks to arguably the spine of the film, when Renton has his rant about who the Scots really are.
But the law is to the law. The scum of the fucking earth. Some people hate the English, I don't. They're just wankers. We, on the other hand, are colonised by wankers.
So while the theme of the film is choose life, the spine of the film is in the heart of that speech. It's about the society, it's about the social culture, it's about...
It's a shite state of affairs to be in, Tommy, and all the fresh air in the world won't make any fucking difference.
One other aspect of the film is everyone is on a drug of some kind. If it's not heroin, if it's not smack, it's alcohol, like Begbie. Or Renton's parents who drink and smoke.
And 1 bottle of Valium, which I've already procured from my mother, who is, in her own domestic and socially acceptable way, also a drug addict.
So that's my take on Trainspotting. If you'd like to see more of these analyses, you know what to do. If you'd like to learn more about filmmaking, you can check out my book. Feel free to leave a comment or any suggestions for other films you would like to see me analyse. See you next time.
Choose your future. Choose life.
Here comes